I'm Cynthia James, and this network is about changing lives one woman at a time.
Hello, welcome to Women Awakening. I'm your host, Cynthia James, and I'm so excited that I get to bring to you extraordinary women. And when I say extraordinary, it's not because they're exceptions, they're examples that show us that we can thrive and be excited and bring our gifts to the planet. And nurturing one another, I believe, is one of the great gifts that women have. So I hope you will come back every week. I do these every week with a different woman who inspires me. We're on Spotify, iTunes, iHeart, Spreaker, Amazon. We're video on YouTube. You look for Women Awakening, Cynthia James. Come back, subscribe, tell everybody to come, every woman you know, and just spend time with us. I promise you will be inspired. You can also go to cynthiajames.net. That's my website. You can sign up for my newsletter or see the gifts or the resources that I offer. So today I have a new person that I want to introduce you to. Her name is Wendy Wright. She's a leading financial therapist and the CEO of Financial Therapy Solutions LLC. She has a background as a licensed therapist, a money coach, business owner. Wendy excels in merging psychological insights with financial expertise, and her pioneering work in the field of financial therapy has transformed lives by addressing the emotional aspects of financial decision making. Today, we're going to explore her insights on how to achieve harmonious relationship with money, ladies, and navigate the complexities of financial well-being. Wendy, thank you so much for being here.
I'm delighted to be here. I love anytime I get a chance to help someone feel just 2% less anxious about money, I'm all about it.
Hey, it's great. Well, I want to start with where you were born, how you grew up. I don't think you probably came on the
Huh?
planet as a money expert.
I did not actually. I actually made some I won't say money mistakes because part of what I do is bust shame, but I've done some things with money that I would like to not repeat. We put it that way. So I'm human, is what I'm really trying to tell you, Cynthia. I am human. So I started my human. I was born in Memphis, Tennessee, and so I'm sure I'll still drop a y'all in here as we're talking because that's usually what catches me up. People are like, "Wait, where are you from?" And so I was born in Memphis, lived there for a long time. I have since lived from Florida to California to now I'm in Colorado, which is where I will have to tell you I was meant to be all along.
Yeah. Well, I love it here. I'm in Colorado too, so I I
Yay.
I love it here. So, so what is it that well, first of all, talk to me about your relationship with money growing up.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, I will have to say it was something that in a way I took for granted, but in a way also I tried to was sort of like in the quest of doing it perfect because I do have some perfectionism in my genetic makeup, I guess we'd say. And so in that, I also grew up with a lot of religious and highly religious, as in the South. If you know, if anyone who's lived in the South, that's in the water. So had a lot of messages about what not to do. So what that left me, and also sort of a lot of just not direct communication about money, and sort of an implication that I would just be in the kitchen or something, which is kind of bad because I really don't like to cook. I've finally made peace with that. Like that's never been my role. I love business. That's what I want to talk about, and that's like it's a hobby and a business all at the same time. So, I grew up having to learn some things. I will say um, I went through the whole credit card thing, learning to, basically just do the balance transfer thing and thinking that that was actually don't know, as long as I was chasing a lower interest rate, that it was okay. So, but you don't talk, I didn't talk about it. I never told anybody. And I think that's a big part of our money relationship, is getting to a place where you can talk about it, and tell what's happening, which is still really scary for everybody. So I'd say it went from a lot of like perfectionism and scarcity to now that I have been doing this work. I did my own work probably about 8 years ago, and feel more peace and calm and clarity and confidence and all those words that, everybody raise your hand if you'd like one of those words, but don't raise your hand if you're driving, but you know what I mean.
Right. Well, it's so interesting. I grew up in a Christian family, and
Yeah.
but the messages were kind of like money's the root of all evil, and rob Peter to pay Paul, and all these
Mhm.
crazy things. And so I want to just start a little bit about, why do you think it is so hard for women to take control of their money?
Yeah. Oh, I know. And I have such a passion for women. Like, that's just kind of my audience. Like, I want you to know your numbers and just know them. So I think that's part of it there, like to the perfectionism and the sort of that idea, you've probably heard this before too, this idea that somehow we're just supposed to know how to do money. Like what? There's nothing else. I was just reading some stuff in uh, Tori's book, The Financial Feminist. It's a fun book. She put stuff together. And she was talking about how, the person who breaks their arm when they're six, nobody expects them to know how to heal that bone. So it's like, so coming into being okay, not knowing. And what I find when I'm working with women too is there's a lot they don't know. Okay, no judgment, no judgment. But if you honestly don't know what a 401k is, find us, I want to help you find a safe place to answer those questions. If you don't know what an HSA is, health savings account, if you don't, that's okay. So we want to normalize that it's okay not to know, but I think that does really trip people up. And then also, there is often a desire for someone else to take care of it. And there's no shame in that either. Okay, I'll tell you, I have two grown children, and you're gonna be jealous maybe, but for Thanksgiving, they did all the cooking. I literally sat on the couch and watched them cook, and I was okay with it. I'm like, y'all can do that. But I think sometimes it's we want someone to take care of us, or we have sort of a complicated relationship with being cared for, and so if someone comes in and they're like, "Oh, I'll take care of all this," but I don't care. I don't care what the dynamic is, what your partnership is like, who you're partnered with, or whatever. I still want you to know your numbers, even if they're saying I'll take care of it. I just want you to know your numbers, and so that's part of the mission, is to help people get comfortable with that.
Well, yeah, well, I want to talk about financial therapy, because I got to tell you, when
Hmm.
I started my business, I had a business coach, and that was the first thing that she was like, "What are your numbers?" And I was like,
Mm.
"Oh," and she goes, "No, no, no, don't
Hmm.
come back on this phone until
Yeah.
you've looked at your number." And
Yeah.
I cried. I
Yes.
I cried because it was
Yes.
like the level of shame in me that I didn't know, and I didn't want anybody else to know, was huge.
Yes.
So I want to talk about financial therapy, because I
Hmm.
have people that I've coached, women who've had these men take care of their partners, take care of their money,
Hmm.
and something
Hmm.
happens to the partner and they're clueless.
Oh, yes,
So what
absolutely.
is financial therapy?
Yeah, well, it is the excitement that you let yourself cry. So it's the intersection of money and emotions. And
Mhm.
it is in financial therapy sessions, I am there for someone who needs to cry or freeze. A lot of times when money comes up, there's a fight, flight, or freeze. So, it's like, how do you react? And I've created 10 principles of financial therapy that I use to train other therapists, and I use with my clients. And I always say the first one has to come first. And it is that we approach this with abundant, compassionate curiosity and zero judgment.
Yeah.
And that is, just the depth of that. And often I'll have clients who may be really good at not judging other parts of their life, but money feels like it's sort of this special category that's all boxed over, and you can judge yourself for it. So as we decrease the judgment, we come into that, like, because when I'm consulting people for their businesses too, I'll be like, do you have a business plan? Or, how do you, actually say, what is your relationship with having a business plan? So
Mm,
that then they already know I'm open to the idea that they don't have one yet. But,
mm,
it's like looking at that, recognizing, and then we do a lot of journaling, we're
mm.
talking through what's the thought, what's the feeling that comes up. So it's bringing in those feelings and looking at the role they're playing in decision making so that people can begin to make shifts.
Yeah, it's really interesting. People don't even think about a lot of the times that there is definitely a relationship with money. And it
Hmm.
could be good news or interesting news, but there is a
Hmm.
relationship and it's connected to mindset. So
Uh,
in the work that you're doing, are you helping people shift their money mindsets?
uh-huh, absolutely. In fact, that's the name of my online program, Money
Oh,
Mindset Shift. I
oh.
love it. Thanks. But absolutely, because it is, and I use the word shift because I want language that is very like we are moving, we're not moved,
Mhm,
because money work is never done. And that's one of the hardest things about money is we want to put a period at the end of it, but it is never done. It's always moving. And so when you notice your mindset, and say a very common one might be scarcity. So if you have a scarcity mindset, look at how it shows up in your thoughts. It shows up in there was not enough. And then there's a feeling of fear, and then there's an action of, retreat or get really mad if someone charged you more than 5 cents over. Like and once they start to connect those dots, then they can begin to look for, how do I shift this? How can I be less reactive and more connected to where I want to go with my money?
yeah. Well, and that opens up for me, you know, how do you talk to your significant other? How do you talk to your
Mm-mm.
children about money? Because people come from
Yeah.
different mindsets and walks of life. Now they're coming together,
Mm-hmm.
and so can we just talk a little bit about how do you get clear
Mm-hmm.
about how to have those conversations when money is a very tender place?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. You know, um, Let me give you two tips for today. The first one is, before you can have the conversation with that partner, with that significant other, with that child, with that aging parent, maybe, like they're
Hmm.
all around us, business partner, I want you to be able to have a different conversation with yourself. So
Mm,
when you feel like you are talking to yourself in a way that feels grounded and confident and clear, then you will begin to have better languaging, better words. We'll use the typical I statements and things like that. So, but coming into your own internal dialogue, huge first step. The second tip I'll give is to remember, especially if it's been tender or painful money, if you've had just money fights. One of the things we often lose sight of is remember that the next conversation you have is only one of probably like 28,012. So we don't have to, often we feel like we have to do it all at one time. And then it's an hour and a half conversation and everybody's miserable. And, there's a reason counseling sessions are 50 minutes, because that's about the extent of our brain, and
right.
feelings and stuff. And so I encourage people to take it 10 minutes at a time and only try to accomplish one thing at a time. So that can really help to take the pressure off. Just a couple of tips.
Yeah, it's so important. I used to work with women entrepreneurs, and that money conversation was always big for them
Mhm,
individually, for their business, for their families. And well, there's two things that I read from you,
mhm.
and the first one was, "Don't pay off debt till we talk." What does that
Yes.
mean?
Oh, yes. Thanks for bringing that up. So my money coaching part was taught. I was coached and mentored by Karen McCall, who wrote Financial Recovery, and she's a great leader in this anti-shame money approach. And she calls it saving your way out of debt. I have twisted the language just a little bit because I will ask people one question: do you want to get out of debt or do you want to stay out of debt? Because those are
Ah,
two different things. And most everybody will say, I want to stay out of debt, but I want to get out of debt, but I want to stay out of debt. So what we want to do first, we want to look at, and this takes a lot of courage, as you might guess, Cynthia, too. Like, we want to look at what decisions, what mindsets led to thinking debt was the answer to whatever problem they were trying to solve. And we do that with compassionate curiosity and zero judgment, but it makes a huge difference in my clients' lives and mindset and ability to sleep at night.
mhm. So, yeah, I wanted to the second thing I wanted to talk to you
Mm-hmm.
about was, inheritance. I had a
Mm-hmm.
friend who very creative and wonderful and inherited, you know, a nice sum of money. And we watched as he just spent and spent and spent and spent, and all of a sudden, 5 years
Mm-hmm.
later, there's no money.
Mm-hmm.
And, um, and he felt like he didn't need to talk to anyone because he felt like he
Mm-hmm.
could handle it. So, what
Mm-hmm.
do you tell people about inheritance, especially if
Mm-hmm.
they wanna build wealth and continue to take care of themselves over a long period of time?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, gosh. Well, you're highlighting something that's real. There's even research that shows, I think it's upwards of 70% of people who inherit money see it as a burden. And
Ah,
so he's not, no one's alone if they feel like it, because it is hard to find someone to talk to about it. A lot of people's natural response is, oh, I wish I had that problem, kind of feeling, right? So I think just coming in again, I'll just stick with that first principle: abundant, compassionate curiosity and zero judgment to the thoughts and feelings. Sometimes our inheritance comes from someone we did not enjoy knowing, and so we have to deal with those emotions. Sometimes it comes from someone we loved very much, and that's a bucket of emotions. And so talking through those feelings. But then one tip that I give people one little tool that I give people who have inherited money, who are ready to do this emotional work, is to write out the story they want the money to tell. And that
mm,
often really helps them because it's a story, so it's not math. Okay, so we don't want to go into the math yet until we're ready for it. And it's a story they want it to tell. So it helps them begin to own that money. And so that's one tool that I use that anyone, all y'all, I see I told you I'd say y'all,
mm.
listening can definitely do, like, with that.
Well, I think that that's so beautiful. I just wanna go back to that,
Hmm.
releasing shame that you
Yeah.
spoke of, because I can remember in my own life a time where I didn't handle money well, and then I was sort of beating myself up. Um, but what do you wanna tell people about the,
Hmm.
toxicity of shame?
Oh gosh, yeah. So much. Maybe for today, let's focus on normalizing it. Normalizing that shame is painful, that it is, hmm, it comes in and keeps us stuck. Because we tend to believe, when there's a lot of shame, we tend to believe a kind of an all or nothing message about ourselves, such as, one of my principles is there's not really a quote, air quotes for people who can't see me, bad
Mhm.
with money or good with money. That's a polarization that keeps people stuck. Because if you think you're bad with money, for instance, then why check your balance, right? Why ask for more money? Because you'll just mess it up. Like, even someone who's inherited money, that what looks on the outside like they're spending or giving a lot of it, what's really happening on the inside is they're pushing it away. Perhaps, like, if they think they're bad
Mhm.
with money, they want to get rid of it as soon as possible. And so it's helpful to go underneath the behavior and see what the mindset is. And then apply that. That's why my first principle is abundant, compassionate curiosity and zero judgment. And that is also why I think that's the hardest thing. Like people think setting up a quote unquote budget is going to be the hardest thing and sticking to it, but no, dropping the judgment is the hardest thing that I think my clients do, and I'm proud of them. I think anyone who engages with my material, and so in the course takes people through how to make peace with those thoughts, because those
Mm,
thoughts they're kind of a bully, aren't they?
yeah, 100%. Well,
Mhm.
I was reading something recently about a lot of baby boomers, don't have a
Mhm.
lot of savings and stuff because we just thought we are going to live forever. And
Mhm.
um, and so when someone comes to you that may be middle age or maybe even
Mhm.
older, what do you say to them about savings?
Mhm. Yeah. Um, that's so important because tell me if this makes sense to you, Cynthia. But what I'll talk about is the fact that savings often reflects our beliefs about ourself. It's very connected to our relationship with ourself. What it's like to sort of hold space for yourself emotionally often shows up in what it's like to hold space for your money in a savings account. And so we'll look at that emotional part and see first, what are the feelings here? What are the thoughts? And then once we sort of have walked through some of that, we will look at, because I do then I blend the therapy and the coaching. Like I'll come in and say, let's build a plan and look at what where you want to be, and then look at the feelings for that. So like if we go through some numbers, I'm gonna pause and say, okay, here's the number maybe in their retirement account, and then maybe it's not what they wanted it to be. Then we're going to pause and talk about the feelings and let them process that, so that they don't get stuck there because they feel stupid or something like that. So we talk about it. Hmm.
Well, I think it's incredible, and I love the work that you're doing. Tell
Thanks.
my people how they can find you
Hmm.
and do
Yeah,
your work.
absolutely. Yeah. Well, I work virtually, globally. So anyone can find me at financialtherapysolutions.com, or like Instagram is at Financial Therapy Solutions. And when they get there, there is always a free exercise. Like right now, there's one for intentional shopping where I take you through a breathing exercise and kind of help you ground yourself before you go into the store or log into the website, which I know, that can be helpful at any time of the year. And so that they'll see some resources like that. Then they'll see the Money Mindset Shift program, and they can dig into that right away. I think that if any of this has piqued their interest, to jump right on into that, it's financialtherapysolutions.com, and it'll be listed under courses.
Well, I'm so grateful that you're doing this. I believe we live in an abundant universe, and once we get clear about releasing those old ways of being, something beautiful can happen in terms of building wealth.
Yeah, yeah, it opens up things, doesn't it?
Exactly. So
Hmm.
I ask the same last question of every guest.
Okay.
This show is called Women Awakening.
Hmm.
What do you think is the most important thing about women waking up on the planet in this moment?
Mm. Wow. Okay. I feel like I want to say something like knowledge, because I feel like for me, when women know their numbers, but they know their numbers in a way that's peaceful, not shaming, like really come into that. It is very grounding. And so I think being able to know yourself, and then that helps you sort of like reach out to help others, because as we help other women understand and believe in themselves, that just seems to have that really lovely ripple effect. So that's what I'll say for today.
That's beautiful. Well, I'm very grateful that you came, and I love your knowledge and your desire to share it. I just think it's so important. Thank you.
Thanks, Cynthia. I appreciate it.
Okay, ladies, I say the same thing to you in different form every week. You know, what if you knew you lived in an abundant universe? What if you knew that you were here to be abundant? What if you knew money was your friend? What if you knew that in any given moment you can shift the mindset and move into a relationship with your finances that supports you thriving? You are amazing. And I'm grateful that we get to come together every week and learn new things about how to stand in our power. Many blessings to you, and I will see you next time.